Hi, in this video I want to talk about something that comes up often in Facebook groups and the hypnosis circles, and that's the idea that hypnosis is related to specific levels of brainwave activity. And a lot of this comes from the research by certain hypnosis researchers who have been, certainly at Stanford, have been conducting research over the last 20 or 30 years, proving that hypnosis is related to certain levels of brainwave activity, and that hypnosis is an altered state of consciousness. A lot of this research comes out of Stanford, and I have to tell you, I think it's fundamentally flawed for a number of reasons. So let's look at why I think it's fundamentally flawed. And I think if you look at it through this viewpoint, you'll also very quickly understand that this is the case. First of all, one of my early hypnosis teachers, someone called Jerry Kine in the US, he spoke about this back in the 1990s. And he said, I want you to imagine you have a hypnosis client and you have got them in hypnosis and you regress them back to a time when they were gang raped at the back of McDonald's. What do you think is going to happen to their brainwave activity? It's going to go through the roof. It's not going to be at a sort of low level anymore. It's going to go straight up. Now, their brainwave activity is going to go through the roof, but they're still hypnotized. So what has that got to do with hypnosis? So there's a first thing that kind of makes you think. If you get a client that is abreacting in some way and they're having all this big emotional stuff going on, what do you think's happening to their brainwaves? It's going to be spiking, and yet they're still hypnotized. So that's the first kind of clue that it's not related to a specific low level of brainwave activity, like some people seem to think it is. But here's my real problem with the research. The research, what they tend to do, and this comes, and say most of the research comes out of Stanford, is they use the Stanford hypnotizability scales, and they use what are called high responders to these inductions. So what they have is, because they're trying to standardize everything, is they have a recorded induction, right? A recorded PMR type induction. They then use what are called high responders. Now, a high responder is someone who responds really well to a recorded induction that says relax, 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 relax. And so they duly oblige and they relax. And then they stick all sorts of monitors on them and put them through an MRI and things like that. And then look at their brains and look at the brainwave activity and go, oh, look, their brainwave level is theta or something. That must mean that when you're hypnotized, that must be your brainwave level. And look, they're all pretty much the same. And no one stops and questions this for a moment and says, hang on a minute. You're picking the high responders who are conditioned to relax to suggestions to relax. Are you measuring hypnosis? Or are you measuring the response to the suggestions to relax? And this is the thing. They got it all wrong. They just missed this. There's this fundamental flaw in this research. They are picking people who relax and relax, relax to a PMR induction. Then they're measuring their brainwave activity. And sure enough, their brainwave activity is really down there. Why? Because they're relaxed. Not because they're in hypnosis. And this is what the problem is. So they've got this whole lot of research, it's neuroscience that says, oh, look, this is hypnosis. When the brainwave level activity comes down to this level, that must mean they're in hypnosis, right? And so people read this research, it comes from Stanford, it must be great. It's fundamentally flawed. Hypnosis is not an altered state of consciousness. It doesn't need relaxation. They're not measuring hypnosis. They're measuring the response to the suggestions for relaxing. And that's what they're doing, because you can get hypnosis in the normal waking state. Those of us who are trained in waking hypnosis can stick people's hands to the wall, can lock their hands together, they can create amnesia, get people to forget their names, all sorts of things in a wide awake normal state. Where's their brainwave level activity there? It's normal. Hypnosis is in a state, and this is what people like Sabin was talking about when he said that hypnosis isn't an altered state of consciousness. It's nothing more than a suspension of disbelief and believed in imaginings. This is followed up by the work of Irving Kirsch, who says that hypnosis is nothing more than a non-deceptive mega placebo. It's not an altered state of consciousness. It doesn't require the relaxation. But all these studies that they do at places like Stanford are inducing relaxation. They're deliberately inducing that state. Now, that doesn't mean to say with hypnosis you can't induce those states. You can, clearly. But that's not the hypnosis. That's the response to the suggestions. And this is the big thing. So if you read these people on Facebook groups telling you that, you know, hypnosis has to be an alpha level or a theta level or whatever, they really aren't thinking. They've read something and thought, oh, that makes sense, but they're not putting two and two together. It's really not the case. Hypnosis itself is not related to any specific level of brainwave activity. In fact, the only brainwave activity that you need to be hypnotized is just to have brainwave activity. As long as there's brainwave activity going on, you can get hypnosis. And this is so important to understand. Don't get misled with this stupid idea that it's a certain level of brainwave activity. And even worse, don't think that then you have to go out and buy some form of gadget to measure your client's brainwave activity before you can start giving them suggestions. You know, it's just a complete load of nonsense. So I want you to really just stop and think about these things. One of the best ways of thinking is to start thinking critically when someone gives you some information, and think to yourself, well, when is that not true? Because then you'll come up with counterexamples and you'll suddenly realize, hang on a minute, that can't be right. And so when you think about this, that if hypnosis is related to specific levels of brainwave activity, when you've got a client and they're abreacting or they're reliving some horrible past event, their brainwave activity is going to be through the roof, and yet they're still in hypnosis, they're still responding to suggestions. It cannot be that it's related to that specific level of brainwave activity. It just cannot be. In the same way, you have people like the amazing Kreskin, who's a mentalist and a hypnotist in the US, who back in the 70s offered a challenge to researchers and said, if you can prove hypnosis is a trance state, I'll give you $100,000. Well, he still has his money. Somebody did try and challenge him with that and they lost. So Kreskin many years ago said hypnosis is not a trance state. And he offered $100,000 to anyone who could prove otherwise, and he still has his money. So all these researchers, they know that if they challenge him, they're going to lose. So don't be fooled into this idea that it's you have to get some sort of level of relaxation or trance or brainwave activity before hypnosis. Hypnosis happens all the time. Hypnosis is nothing more than the person using their imagination and forgetting that they're imagining it. Getting so caught up in what you're asking them to imagine that they forget they're imagining. And you know, we do this, as hypnotists do this all the time when we're doing suggestibility tests. You know, you get someone to put their hands together like this and pull their fingers out like that and imagine that there's magnets on their fingers, and if they do that, their fingers close. Or if you use the lemon test, you have them imagine a juicy ripe lemon on their hand and then maybe taking a bite out of it. It increases the saliva in their mouth. That's pure hypnosis. The person is starting to use their imagination and then forgetting that they're imagining it, and it starts causing a physiological response. That's hypnosis. There's no difference in brainwave activity when you get the person to do that. There really isn't. So start thinking critically. When people tell you these things, think, hang on a minute, when's that not true? What are the counterexamples to that? And you'll soon find there's massive holes. And particularly if you look at the research of how they're conducting these hypnosis studies to prove that hypnosis is related to brainwave activity, you'll soon find, hang on a minute, they're using high responders here who are conditioned to relax. They're measuring the relaxation. They're not measuring the hypnosis. So have a think about that and start questioning some of the things you've been told. Until next time, I hope if you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe. Have a look at the membership channel as well. There's loads of videos on there as well that will really teach you about hypnosis and NLP for a ridiculously low monthly rate. So have a look at those as well. But until next time, really start thinking about what you've been taught, because a lot of what I was taught many, many years ago turned out to be a load of nonsense, and I've had to completely disregard the vast majority of the things I was taught when I was first learning.